Knuckles has been arrested and charged with possession of narcotics for the purpose of trafficking. After a lengthy pretrial phase, his case is now before the courts. Like all criminal trials, Knuckles' trial will follow a very precise pattern.
It is our contention that Mr. Knuckles knowingly imported narcotics for the purpose of trafficking. We will present evidence and testimony from witnesses that will prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt. The Crown would like to call Mr. Jimmy Lightfingers as its first witness. Mr. Lightfingers, will you please state your full name for the court?
James Francis Lightfingers.
Mr. Lightfingers, how do you know the accused?
We were business associates for a couple of years, but had a falling out. Believe me, there's no love lost between us now.
Mr. Lightfingers, can you please tell the court what you saw on the night of June 13th, 2006?
Yeah, I was coming out of the Cobra restaurant down on 5th Street when I heard a commotion out back. Down by the docks. Went to see what was going on. I saw Knuckles and some other guy unload a big package from a boat and put it in Knuckles' trunk. Knuckles then jumped into his car and took off. Next thing I know, he was busted for possession. The cops came to my house and asked if I was involved.
And were you? After all, you said you used to be business associates.
Used to be. Nah, I wasn't involved. Like I said, I saw it from a distance.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Lightfingers.
Mr. Lightfingers, you just told the court that on the night of June 13th, 2006, you were at the King Cobra restaurant. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
And what were you doing there?
I was having dinner with some friends.
Was one of those friends Rocco Johnson?
Yeah, Rocco was there. So what?
Mr. Lightfingers, I find it interesting that on the night in question, both you and Mr. Johnson, known enemies of my client, were at the scene of the alleged crime. Don't you find that a wee bit coincidental?
No, I don't.
But you do admit that both you and Mr. Johnson are enemies of my client, don't you?
Yeah.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Lightfingers, perhaps you can explain something to me. What were you doing at the restaurant with Mr. Johnson?
Rocco and I were at the restaurant with a group of friends to celebrate his grandmother's 85th birthday. After we finished dinner, Rocco and me snuck out back for a smoke.
And what happened next?
Rocco drove his grandmother home. I stayed for another couple hours, visiting with everyone else.
And when did you leave?
About 9:30.
Is that when you saw Mr. Knuckles out back loading the package into his car?
Yeah, that's right.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Just so we're all clear, you say you were at the restaurant for a birthday party and that Mr. Johnson's grandmother was the guest of honor. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. No further questions.
The Crown calls each of its witnesses, and the testimony, cross-examination, redirect, re-cross-examination cycle continues. Once the Crown Counsel has called all its witnesses, it is the Defense Counsel's turn. The Defense Counsel questions the witness first. The Crown Counsel may then cross-examine, the Defense Counsel may redirect, and the Crown Counsel may re-cross-examine. This is repeated for each Defense Counsel witness. After calling all its witnesses, the Defense Counsel makes its closing arguments. It attempts to convince the jury that the Crown Counsel has not proven beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused is guilty. Now the Crown Counsel makes its closing arguments. It attempts to prove to the jury that the accused is guilty. After instructions from the judge, it's up to the jury to decide the fate of the accused. The jury deliberates in private until it reaches a unanimous verdict in the case. When it does, the court reconvenes and the jury's decision is heard.